Hey everyone, Todd from Sideshow Effects once again, and in this video I'm going to run through the installation process of our new Cubase Pro Profiles for the Stream Deck Plus device. There's quite a few different steps that we want to go through here to ensure that everything runs smoothly, so let's get to it. The first thing you're going to want to do is we need to install a program called Loop MIDI. Now if you have one of our previous packs that uses MIDI control, you'll likely already have Loop MIDI installed. But if you don't, you will go to this website, Tobias Erickson, and you can download the MIDI right here. And I'll put the link in the description below, and it's also in the PDF that comes in your package. Now, when you install that, it'll be blank like this, and so we have to create 4 ports. So we're going to click here first. We'll get rid of this Loop MIDI port. We're going to replace this name. The first one we're going to do is Stream Deck to DAW. Written exactly like that. Capital S, capital D, with the number 2. Stream Deck to DAW. And then we click the plus icon there to add that port in. Second one, DAW to Stream Deck. Hit the plus. Third one, Stream Deck to DAW track, plus, and DAW track to Stream Deck. And the plus one more time. And now we have all 4 ports have been put into Loop MIDI. Make sure when you install Loop MIDI that it is set to run on launch when you restart your computer. You want to make sure that this is always running in the background. Okay, so we're going to put that away for now. Now the next thing we need to do is start installing the various bits and pieces that come in your download pack. So this is the folder that you would have downloaded from Sideshow Effects. So we're going to install the key commands for Cubase first. And the location for that is right here. So the location is in your app data folder, roaming, Steinberg, Cubase and your version of Cubase, whichever one you have to be running, presets, and key commands. Now when you go to the folder, this is our Cubase Pro Profiles folder. You download it from Sideshow Effects. Go inside this Windows folder, and in here is a Sideshow Effects Key Commands Stream Deck Plus Windows key command file. You'll take this and drag it into this location. You can see I already have it here, so I'm not going to repeat that process. So that's where that goes. Now, if by any chance you can't see your app data folder, go to your C drive and click on Options. And under View, you'll make sure that this is selected, Show Hidden Files, Folders, and Drives. And that way your app data folder will become visible. Now let's go to Cubase because we want to select that key file that we just installed. So likely you would need to restart in order for Cubase to recognize the file. So we'll go over to Edit, Key Commands. And in the presets drop-down box, you're going to select Sideshow Effects Key Command, Stream Deck Plus Windows, and say OK. Now let's briefly duck back out of Cubase. We have a few more things we need to do here. We want to take this VST script and this Trevliga spell folders. We want both of those to copy them to our Documents folder. So you click and drag and drop them in your Documents folder. And you'll see I already have mine here. The Trevliga spell contains all the graphics for the MIDI functions that will appear in our Stream Deck profiles. And the VST script is a script utility that will be loading in a few minutes. You want to make sure that they stay in your Documents folder. Now let's go back into Cubase. So we're going to go up to Studio, More Options, and MIDI Device Manager. We're going to go Import Setup, and we will navigate to our Sideshow Effects folder. We're going to go into the key command folder, and there's a loop MIDI document here. We're going to select this file, and we'll select it as a loop MIDI. Now in the output, we're going to select DAW to Stream Deck. Okay, and we'll close this out. We're going to go into Studio Setup. We'll click on MIDI port Setup, and you'll see that our Stream Deck to DAW and DAW to Stream Deck are in here. So the DAW to Stream Deck and DAW track to Stream Deck in the imports, we want to make sure that they're off. Still in the input, we see our Stream Deck to DAW and our Stream Deck to DAW track. Well, the Stream Deck to DAW is visible. The Stream Deck to DAW track is visible. The Stream Deck to DAW, the in all should be deselected, but selected for the Stream Deck to DAW track. Once again, this is in your PDF, and it's easily outlined, so you can follow it in the PDF. Let's scroll down to the output section. DAW to Stream Deck, DAW track to Stream Deck, both are visible. Stream Deck to DAW and Stream Deck to DAW track are not visible for the outputs. Now the next thing to do is we're going to add a device. We're going to add a generic remote. Now if you have other generic remotes listed here, you're going to want to make sure that the one we're creating right now stays at the top of this stack. So we can go to Import, and in our download folder, in the key command folder, we'll select the Sideshow Effects generic remote. In the MIDI input, we're going to select Stream Deck to DAW, and in the MIDI output, DAW to Stream Deck. We'll click Apply. Now this next step is for Cubase 12 and newer users only. Is not available in Cubase 11 or 10. So we'll go back into Studio Setup. We'll click on MIDI Remote. Now you see I've already got this loaded here, but what you'll likely find is you'll just have these two buttons right here. We're going to open MIDI Remote Manager. Yours will be blank. And you'll click on the import script. You'll navigate to your Cubase Pro folder from Sideshow Effects. Navigate to the MIDI Remote script in the Windows folder, and you're going to import the Sideshow Effects Track Mix Strip MIDI Remote. Now, of course, I've already got it loaded, but when you launch that, you'll need to select your input port as Stream Deck to DAW track and your output port as DAW track to Stream Deck. And also be advised that you should have a project loaded when you do this MIDI remote step. If a project isn't loaded, you may not be able to complete this step. So that's it. That's the setup in Cubase. It's all set to go. The next thing to do is to load up our Stream Deck profiles itself. So we're going to go into the Stream Deck Plus profile folder in your Sideshow Effects download. And you can see that this isn't just one profile. This is a set of 14 profiles that all work together. Now to import these, we should have Stream Deck running, and we're going to double click each one of these and they will load in one by one. You want to take your time making sure that they all do load in. The transport one takes a little longer than the others, so you want to make sure, give it the time to import. And so you can go into your preferences of Stream Deck and ensure that all 14 make it in. And there we can see they get loaded at the bottom of the stack here, so they should all be loaded in there. All right, now we can close the preferences for now. The next thing to do is we're going to go to the Stream Deck store. We're going to navigate to plugins, and we're going to type in the search, we're going to type in MIDI. And there's two plugins here that we want to make sure that we install. It's this one, MIDI by Trevligas Bell, and Cubase by Trevligas Bell. If you haven't installed these, they will have a blue install button. Click on that and it will install them. Obviously you see it says uninstall on mine. That means I already have them installed. But you just click the install for each of those, let the plugins install, and then you can close this out. Now we're going to navigate to the main profile in this set. This is Cubase main Stream Deck Plus Win. Now, like I said, we have 14 profiles in this pack, and they are all interconnected. And And what that means is these are a set of switch profiles that when clicked, they will open up another profile in the pack. This helps to keep things more organized. However, as you can see down here, when we click on this, it's going to launch our default profile. Well, that's not what we want. Unfortunately, with Stream Deck, when you import a profile that has switch profiles, if they were pointed in a specific location when you export it out, it loses that connection. So we have to re-navigate these buttons to the correct profile. So we're going to go through it one by one. So the command menu, when we press that, we want to make sure that the command menu, Cubase command menu, opens up. So from this drop-down menu, we select Cubase command menu. Track strip, track mix strip, track mix strip. VS utility, VS utility, MIDI, Cubase MIDI. Tools, Cubase tools. Transport, Cubase transport. Add track, Cubase add track. Colorize, Cubase colorize. Now you see that there are 2 pages in this profile. Now with the new Stream Deck Plus device, it makes it easy to switch from one page to another by just swiping this dial screen. This is a dial strip screen that we've got here above the dials. So all we need to do is swipe left or right and we'll be able to navigate whatever pages we have in a profile. So there we are on page 2. So let's click on Quick Control, and the profile is going to be Cubase Quick Control. Grid Quantize, and this is going to be Cubase Grid Quantize. Now also this main profile, we need to point back to the Cubase main. So now when I click on that main button on my device, that takes me back to the first page. Now just as we've been able to navigate from the main to the profile we want, we're going to need to get ourselves back here. So we'll go into each one of these profiles and point back to the main. So let's go to the command menu, and the command menu profile appears. Let's click on this back button. We want to make sure that this will take us back to main. Clicking on our device, and that's what happens. Now a track mix strip, same thing. Cubase main, and back. VST utility, back to main. And that works. But we'll go back into VST utility because there's a few navigations we have to adjust here. The first is insert effects. We want to make sure that we point this one to our Cubase insert effects. VST plugins goes to the Cubase VST plugin, and this quick control will go to the Cubase quick control, and keybind will go to Cubase keybind. Now let's step into the insert effects. This navigation needs to go back to our Cubase VST utility, which is where we were. So now when I click back, it doesn't go to the main, it goes back to where we just were. Okay, same thing with the VST plugins. Goes to VST utility. Now the quick control is the same one that appears on page 2 of our main, and we're going to send this back to the main, not back to VST. However, you notice a difference here is that when we go to the first page of the quick controls, we don't have a back button here. This is by design because it's meant to for you to quickly get to the quick control features, and so we have the 8 quick controls on the first and second page, and then the third page is where we can go back to. So we will program this one to go back to main. Now we can go back into VST utility, and we have one more we need to do, which is the keybind. Click keybind, and we're going to point this back to the VST utility. And we'll go back to main. We'll select MIDI. This will go back to main. Tools. Back to main. Transport. Back to main. Add track. Back to main. Colorize. Back to main. Swipe to the second page. We already did quick control. That's the same quick control as we just did that was in the VST utility profile. We'll go to grid quantize and back to main. So that is the switch profile navigation is set up and complete. Now you'll be able to bounce back and forth between all the different profiles. Okay, let's go back to the VST utility. You see there's this key here. This is our Cubase utility. Now this is kind of the engine that drives things underneath the hood here. And so we need to, likely you'll find that this is blank on yours. So what you would need to do is click on the ellipses here, because we have to tell it what file or where the file is, the utility file is that will drive this. So you click on the ellipses and you will navigate to, and you remember I showed you to put your VST script folder into documents. Well, this is in the VST script, and I'll click out here, and there's 3 different folders, one for Cubase 10, 11, and 12. So depending on what software you're running, that's the VST utility that you will load. So I'm on 12 right now, so I would double click this Cubase 12 plugin utility file, and that's what will show up here, and this is what will be driving things. In fact, we're going to launch it right now so that when we get into our key binding, things will work for us. So it's as simple as once you've pointed to the correct file, you press the button, you'll hear a beep, and you'll also notice down at the bottom here, the Cubase utility has loaded. So should you restart the computer, you may need to just hit that button again to make sure that everything is working under the hood. You always want to make sure your Cubase utility icon is down there on your taskbar. If it's not there, you might find it in this part of the tray. Now we have 2 of these buttons in different locations just for convenience. So if we step into keybind here, you'll see we have the exact same key here. So you want to make sure that it points to the exact same utility that you just did in the previous one. So while we're in the keybind profile, we're going to do a little bit of setup here. So let's go into Cubase. And what we're going to do is we're going to create an instrument track. So do an right click and make an add instrument track. Now we've got the add instrument track dialog here. Now what I want to do is we're going to be recording my mouse position with this key. So I'm going to place my cursor over top of the instrument drop down here, just anywhere in the drop down. I'm going to hold Control on my keyboard, and I'm going to press the instrument keybind key. So holding Control, and you hear a beep, that means that position has been recorded. We're going to do the same thing, hovering over the add track, holding Control on the keyboard, hit add track. Those 2 positions have now been recorded. Okay, so we're not going to create the track right now. That was just so that we could record those positions. So we'll come out of that. So on our device, we're going to go back out to main, and we're going to go into colorize here. And we need to program a few things in colorize. So we're going to swipe past these pages into, this is page 4 of the colorize profile. And this is our keybind section. So you can see this is keybind by the fact that we have these green triangles along the top here versus one page back where you see there is no green triangles. These are the ones we'll use to, when everything's all programmed, we'll just hit one of these with a track selected and it will colorize that track. But we have to program our profile for each of these colors. Now the first thing we need to do is in Cubase, we're going to hover over the color palette, just right there. And this time we don't need to hold Control. All we need to do is press the colorize track on the dial strip here. So you hear that we heard the beep. Now the next thing is we're going to click on this so that the palette is available to us. Now I'm going to hover the mouse over each one of these colors and hit the appropriate color on the Stream Deck device. And we should hear a beep each time indicating that it's recorded that position. So over red. So that's the first 8 done. Want to do the second 8, we swipe to the next page. And there you go. We've got all the 16 colors have now been programmed. So if we want to test it, we have a track selected here. Let's swipe back to any one of the color pages. These are not keybind because you don't have the bright green triangle there. These are the regular key functions. Now let's say any one of these, we can colorize our track. Okay, so we have that working. Okay, let's go to the main. We're going to VST Utility. We're going to go into Insert Effects here. So what we want to do is open up our channel settings. Now I'm going to page over to, you see we have inserts 1, 2, 3, 4. If we page over here, past these and until we get to our inserts, we see inserts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The 1, 2, 3, 4 is the same as they were in the first page. It's just convenience that they're duplicated here. But we want to record the positions of each of the channel slots in our channel settings. So much the same way we did with Colorize, we're going to do the same thing here. Except this time we do need to hold Control. In Cubase, we're going to hold over the first channel, hold Control on our keyboard, press Insert 1. And we'll repeat the process for all 8. Hold Control, Insert 2. Hold Control, 3. Hold Control, 4. Hold Control, 5. Hold Control, 6. Hold Control, 7. And hold Control, 8. All 8 of those slots have now been recorded. Now when you get into the navigation video, we're going to go into detail as to how these actually work. But very quickly, just so you're familiar with it, what this allows us to do is we can insert any effects that we might have in our system at the click of a button. And what these do is if I just press any one of these keys now, it will jump me to that particular slot. So if I go to Insert 1, it jumps me directly to that slot. And then I can just come over here to any of my effects and just hit an effect and it will load that effect in for me. And in the installation, we're going to show you all of this, but we're also going to show you how to add in your own effects. So we only have 16 that are pre-built here, but you can load in any of the effects that are loaded in your system, and we show you how to customize that. And that's it. That's all there is to it. As always, the PDF included in your download is the most recent information. So if anything was unclear during this video or didn't make sense, always refer to your PDF as it will have the most up-to-date information. Be sure to check out the navigation video where I go over all the details of this pack and how it integrates itself with Cubase. The link is provided below. Thanks again for watching. Hope you guys enjoy the pack. Until next time, we'll talk to you soon.